what are your expectations as an engineer? So when an artist books a mixing or mastering session, what do they need to have?
The music on a USB. I will not go on YouTube and download your beat because I don't want to get roped up into that. So that needs to be put on a USB or some kind of drive or whatever. You could email it to me or whatever. What I really like is to have the lyrics on a sheet.
All right. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Vana Room. I am your co-host, Monique, and there's Lennon, as always. And today we have a very special guest, and we're going to talk a little bit about the technical side of the music you guys are creating. Today we have RIAA-Certified Engineer, Mr. Chris J. of CJ Audio. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
So really quick, for our audience, Chris is a Orlando-based mix. Chris, you do recording too. So really it's recording, mixing, and mastering, right?
Yeah.
He's an Orlando-based recording, mixing, and mastering engineer, audio engineer. And he's worked on everything from video game audio to ADR for film. I think you've done some TV shows too, right, Chris?
A lot of TV shows.
Yeah. And as you can see behind him, he's got a gold record back there. He just got his double platinum award. So congratulations, Chris, on all of your awesome accomplishments I've known Chris for a very long time. So it's pretty cool to just watch him, with all these amazing accolades and everything that's going on. So we're going to jump right in. Chris, there are a lot of people making music in their homes, on their computers. They're not even going in the studios anymore. Well, not anymore. Some people aren't. And they don't even realize that mixing and mastering is a necessary part of the process. So in the most simplest form possible, can you explain what mixing and mastering, like why do they need mixing and mastering, even if you record into your computer?
Well, mixing is just the process of blending all of your sounds together as one cohesive left and right probably mix, Mastering is just getting it to the next level of, most people think that mastering is just making it louder, but it's kind of polishing it up, opening up the mix, doing metadata, a lot of that stuff that's insanely important because that's how you get paid or, get your name out there. But I mean, I think that's the most basic way. That's how I'd explain it to my neighbors.
That's a good way to put it.
That works for me. Is there anything that they could do during their recording process that would lend a hand to the mixing, or is it just an animal all completely to itself?
Coming from the home studio, like most of especially with bedroom hip hop artists, let's say, I see a lot of that because it's a lot easier to do at your home than say a full rock band, or a jazz band or something like that. So coming from let's just say recording vocals in your house, I think one of the most important things that you'll find will help when it comes to the mixing side is getting your acoustics right. It doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money on it, but I noticed that a lot of people will be like, oh, I recorded this in my closet. I put the microphone between my winter coats and all that stuff. Well, then that kills the high frequencies of your vocals. And especially in hip hop, you need nice, crisp vocals that cut through a beat. And when you try to boost those high frequencies, it's not the same as having natural, bright acoustic, I didn't mean acoustic, but just natural, bright vocal recording. You tend to, you're really trying to boost and bring back everything that you took away by singing into your winter coat. So experimenting in your house a little bit, like maybe doing it in a hallway, maybe do it in a bedroom in a corner, or, just try different areas and you'll see how it changes the frequency response of your microphone with your inside your bedroom and all that good stuff.
Also, I think a good added point too is the type of microphone you're using. Could you elaborate a little bit about, because some microphones, I used to have a microphone that was, I mean, it would pick up a pin drop outside in the hallway. And this one, the SM7B, is very dynamic and it doesn't pick up fan noise and air conditioning nearly as much, if at all, if it's at the right distance away. So can you talk a little bit about how microphone choice may factor into that as well?
Yeah, the microphone choice is a hard one because you have to fork out money to get the microphone, and then you don't like the microphone.
Yeah.
I always tell people that SM7B is probably the first choice of mine for a beginner to kind of go to, because it is it's one of the top vocal mics out there. You know what I mean? I'm not even a fan of a U87. I hardly ever use a U87 on anybody. But I mean, they are great microphones, but an SM7 does tend to lend a little bit more forgiveness, I guess you could say, to an all-around frequency-based vocal. Whether you have a dark vocal or a bright vocal, female, male, whatever, an SM7 is the perfect first choice. The only problem with the SM7 that I ever find is that people using the like a Focusrite preamp or something like that with it. You have to really crank that gain up, so you can get a little bit of noise coming from the preamp coming through. So cloud lifters and all that stuff. I always tell people, go on forums, find people that do what you do, and you like their sound, find out what microphone they're using. That's even if it was, like, let's say a U87, like, what's a cheaper model that might mimic a U87? You don't have to go out and fork out $3,500, $4,000 for a microphone anymore.
No.
That's just an investment.
Yeah, of course.
You've mixed and mastered different styles of music. You've done rap music, hip hop, you've done rock. If I am a new artist, what should I be looking for in a mix engineer? Because different mix engineers, you guys have different styles, and some people are known for doing certain styles of music. But if I'm just starting, what should I be looking for in my mix engineer, and my mastering engineer for that matter?
Listen to what they're putting out. Listen to their product that they're putting out there. You can go to Joe Blow down the road at whatever studio, and he might not even care about your. I see that a lot in a lot of studios. They don't care about your music, really. Or they do care about it, but they don't know that much about the music, or they spend too much time, that type of stuff, doing stuff and wasting your money. But I always suggest, listen to what they're putting out and see if that fits what you're looking for right off the bat. As for a mastering engineer, I think mastering engineers should be all around good at every genre. I would say 80% of the genres. Like, you can't, like, when it comes to a mixing engineer, like, I always tell people starting off that want to be a mixing engineer is pick the genre that you're passionate about and become the best that you can be at that. And once you become really good at that, then you can start branching off the different genres and perfecting that craft. That's why I think, coming straight out of the gate and trying to be a mastering engineer just doesn't work, because you really have to perfect every genre. If I was only a hip hop mastering engineer, I'd be broke. Well, not really. If I was only a rock mastering engineer, I'd be broke. I could do hip hop all day. There's a lot of that out there for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just say, listen to what people are putting out. Most mixing engineers, you contact them to say, let me listen to some stuff you've done. They'll do it. They want the work.
Is it rude to bring a reference track? Like,
No.
if you're an experienced mix engineer and somebody goes, well, I want something that sounds like this, is that disrespectful?
No.
Or is that okay, cool.
Absolutely not. I actually prefer it.
Okay.
Because I want to see where you want to go with it.
Right.
The worst is when you mix something and you give it back to the artist or the label, and they're like, where are you going with this?
Mm.
You know, we wanted it to sound more like the Migos or something like that. And you're like, well, you didn't say that. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, so it is better to have a reference or an idea of what their sound is.
What about budget? So, there's all sorts of, you know, um, these websites out here like Upwork or I forgot what the other one's called, but you got people out here going, "Oh, I'll mix or I'll master for you for $10 a track or whatever." What is a realistic budget figure that a independent artist who's funding their own project should expect to spend in these two areas when putting out their music?
Um, like a song or an album? Let's say a
I
song.
mean, if you want to do both, give me some idea. Cause I mean, some
Well,
people are just doing singles, and then some people are
yeah,
like, all right, I want to put out an EP and
let's
I
just say
need
a song and you can multiply it by 15. And that'd be an album.
okay.
Um, but like the Upwork stuff, I get it. You know, I think that's really good for students coming out, you know, and trying to get some experience in that. You got to be very careful with that whole $10 master crap because you can get locked into that pretty quickly, or people just think you're a joke.
Mhm.
Um, or you can undercut yourself and people don't think you're good because you're charging $10, right? Um, so I would say, like, what I do personally, if I'm working with an independent artist, is I try to set realistic goals. Meaning that if you're a hip hop artist coming to me to do vocals, do I need to book out the 900 square foot room for $100 an hour? Or can I go to the studio down the road that just has a vocal booth that specializes in hip hop for $35 an hour?
Mhm.
Right? And then we can set your budget from there.
Mhm.
Now, what I'm seeing a lot of, and I really freaking hate it, um, and for everyone listening that does this, I hate it. Is I'm seeing artists book 4 hours of studio time, and they want to blast through 15 songs, mix and master.
Oh,
I'm sorry, record and mix, and then
okay.
master, right?
Okay.
And when I first started seeing this happen, I just kind of went along with it, like, okay, right? But then I kind of felt like maybe they were thinking, like, oh, this guy's not that good.
Mm.
Well, no, I'm not that good, right? I can't make you sound radio ready in 4 hours with 10 songs. Like, I can't.
Mhm.
I can't mix, I can't align your vocals, I can't, I can't compress everything. I can't do anything to that extent. You're going to get a quick, filter on your vocal, and we're going to get it to a loudness level, and you're out the door.
So they need to be more realistic about the time it takes to
Yeah,
really
the
make
artist
this
definitely
happen.
does. But they,
Mm.
what I tell a lot of artists is if you're not willing to take the time or the money to put out a quality product, you don't believe that your music's worth it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Mhm.
so what I tell a lot of these people that come in and they do this, I'll say, well, look, we can do that. We can knock out 15 okay songs, or we can knock out 4 awesome songs,
Mhm.
right? And
Mm.
they'll, well, let's try the 4, and if we got time, you know what I mean? And maybe
Mhm.
we'll get 5 or 6 in if they're
Mhm.
really good. Like some of these
Mhm.
people coming in, they can knock out 10 recordings in 4 hours, no problem, if they practice enough.
But you're talking mainly just about a vocalist, like
Yeah,
which is probably the majority of probably who we're talking to here. I don't think we're really I don't think anybody watching is really in a band. It could be. So if you are, drop a question down in the chat and we can revisit that with Chris. But to your point, you're mainly talking about people coming in with lyrics ready to go and maybe a backing track. They're not really working with
yeah,
a band or yeah. Okay.
yeah. Backing tracks. I mean, a lot of stuff I do. I'm a rock and roll guy by heart. That's my love, my
Mm.
passion. But all my gold records are hip hop.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
so that's pretty much what I do anymore. It seems like. So I see a lot of it, and
Mhm.
I totally get money's tight.
Mhm.
So I don't want to waste your money, and I would rather you leave with 4 amazing songs than 13 half-ass songs.
Right.
Right. And the way that hip hop, I don't know if you noticed, but hip hop has been doing stuff lately that is so brilliant. And that is that they're releasing singles instead of albums.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like I work with Fredo Bang all the time. He puts out one song, I master it, it goes out, they get 4 million listens or whatever. When that starts to slow down, boom, here comes another one. And then it keeps going. And then when they get 12 songs or whatever, out comes the album. They're doing one song at a time. They're not putting out, the whole album thing is old. Singles, honestly, I think are where it's at, but you have to be constant. You know what I mean? You have to be putting out a single at least every 2 weeks or 3 weeks to stay relevant and, get that count up. But you also don't want to put out too much. Because remember back in the 90s and stuff when we had CDs,
right.
You'd buy a CD because you liked 1 or 2 songs on it.
Right.
And then 13 of the songs were trash to you.
Yeah. Yeah. The streaming shift definitely changed that. Because now I'm like, I can play this. I like this one. I like this one. And I don't have to spend $15 for 2 songs.
But think about this, though. Remember those 2 songs that you loved on the CD? You loved. But then you burned out on them.
Yeah.
And then those other 13 that you didn't really care for, all of a sudden, you loved them. Right? Because you weren't burned out on them.
Right.
And that's what releasing singles to me does. It gives you the ability to hear each song on its own and not be overshadowed by a more popular song on your album. So I think that is just absolutely brilliant.
What are your expectations as an engineer? So when an artist books a mixing or mastering session, I guess you call it, what should they have prepared for you? Like what do they need to have?
The music on a USB. I will not go on YouTube and download your beat. Because I don't want to get roped up into that. So that needs to be put on a USB or some kind of drive or whatever. You could email it to me or whatever. What I really like is to have the lyrics on a sheet.
Oh, so you want the lyrics typed out?
Oh my God, I don't care if you type it. I don't care if you have it on your phone. Just put them down, man. Like a lot of artists think it's unprofessional to write their lyrics. Dude, I see it all the time.
Really?
Yes. They'll be like, oh, well, the pros don't write it down. They freestyle. They do this. They do the bullshit. Dude, I had an artist the other day come in and forgot his whole song. He stepped up to the mic and literally just sat there. After he told me he fired his partner because his partner was unprofessional.
Wow.
And I got on the mic and I was like, yo, you okay? You good? Like, you want me to loop this? Like, what's going on? He's like, I forgot my lyrics. And I was like, well, did you write them down? He's like, that's not what professionals do. So professionals don't forget their lyrics.
Yeah.
I saw a video of Nicki Minaj making her song, one of her songs, and she was writing her lyrics down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I mean, Nicki Minaj is doing it.
I think Nas made it really popular. Like, just like, oh, I don't write my stuff down. Or Lil Wayne or somebody that also did that.
I think that comes from the mentality that, oh, nobody's writing my stuff for me. It just comes off the top of my head kind of thing. But what does having the lyrics written down do for you as an engineer? Like, how is that helping you?
For one, I can read them and I know whether or not you missed a line. It's the worst when you record a song and you listen back and be like, I forgot verse 2.
Oh, okay.
Or this verse was supposed to be third and not second. It's nice if I can catch that because I've never heard the song before, so just being prepared and just practice as much as you can so that when you come in the studio, we're not wasting time because that it makes the recording journey a lot more fun, and not stressful.
So obviously most of our people are independent, but some of these people may be independent labels. Are there any expectations you have from the record label that you don't have from an individual artist, or is the expectation the same? As far as like preparedness, like if I'm a new label, obviously I don't have the experience of Sony and Warner. So if I'm about to work with an engineer for the first time for the artist that I'm starting to sign, what are your expectations of me as the record label?
Nothing much.
Well, okay. Well, what information do you need from me? Let's put it that way. And you probably need this from the artist too.
Let's say I was mastering your album.
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, that's usually when I'm dealing with the record label in general. Usually when I'm mixing and the record label's there, I'm not really dealing with them. The only time I'm really dealing with the record label on the mixing side is time. You know, they expect it to be done in a certain manner, and or a certain time. If it doesn't get done in a certain time, they're going to find someone else to do it. You know, and that's where things can get hard. That one is actually I just brought up a good point. I've seen record labels that says, you know, we'd like to have this album done in 2 weeks. And it's like, and then all of a sudden the band or the artists are arguing amongst themselves on how they want to mix the sound. It's like, at this point, there needs to be a producer in it. You know what I mean? And sometimes that lack of producer implodes on itself. You need someone, and if that's the case, if you want me to be the producer, you know, you need to tell me that, and you need to tell the artist that, and they need to understand that I'm going to say things that maybe they don't like, and that we need to move on with this. Because I have had it before where the record label kind of just, they won't really talk to you that much on the mixing side of it. You know, they might listen to it or give you a couple, you know, they just want the product to get out there. You know, they want the product to get out there as fast as they can so they can make the money coming in. On the mastering side, what I expect from the label is the sequence of the songs, you know, what order do they want the songs in, the naming of the songs, because that can get really weird, you know, like you don't know if it's how they're spelling things is correct, or if that's how they're spelling it. Is it an S or a Z, you know, like that type of thing nowadays. So it's nice when the record label has all that, especially like the ISRC codes and all that stuff prepared for me. But I find that when I work with labels, they do the ISRCs. That the mastering engineer hardly ever does.
Right. But you had mentioned metadata when we first started, and we did a really good episode with a gentleman named Keith Kirk about the significance of all the metadata. And he really, and he provided an amazing spreadsheet that is so super detailed. So you just mentioned ISRC code, title of the track. What anything else, like your top 3 things that as a mastering engineer you're like, please don't forget this?
The sequence is the number one.
Sequence, okay.
Yeah, because it's hard to start mastering without knowing the order of the songs, because you want the songs to flow a certain way. You know, like if it's going from a busy song to a slower song, the loudness changes, you know what I mean? And the fades change and all that stuff changes and comes be a part of the album. When I don't know the sequence of that, that throws all of that off. And normally when I bring that up, especially when they don't have a label, and I bring it up to artists and I say, hey, what's the sequence of that? That throws that session off for like a week, because then they're like, oh, I didn't even think about order.
You know, it's a different generation, because to your point earlier, just like you said, singles are the way to go. Nobody's, you know, the album. So back in our day when we were growing up, albums, like I could listen to a song on the radio and I knew what song was coming after that if it was on the album, because every album had a flow to it. There was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because singles are so popular right now, these artists are not thinking about the flow of an EP or an album at all. So I think that's a pretty, I think that's an awesome point for you to make.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you, and Lennon, jump in here anytime.
I'm just listening. You guys are asking all the right questions.
Well, another thing a lot of new artists don't understand, and you probably see this if you work with any independent artists, a lot of them come in and they're like, okay, I want to record this, and then I want to mix and master, But one thing they don't really think about is where it's going to be distributed or how. And so can you talk a little bit about why that's significant? Because like if I'm a new artist and I come into you and I say, all right, Chris, I recorded this. Can you mix it? I'm assuming one of your questions to me is going to be, okay, well, where is it going?
Yeah, I
And a
mean,
lot of these artists are like, oh, I'm just going to throw it up on SoundCloud or Spotify. And
yeah, I
so,
mean, we all know where it's going these days. Yeah, it's all going streaming for the most part. Unless it's a
right.
rock band, it's going to go vinyl maybe. Um, but I think that's, especially these people that want to get into the business of being an engineer, specifically, like whether it's a mixing engineer, recording engineer, mastering engineer. The one thing I think is really important to learn is that business side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of the artists that I work with that are, local artists in general, they don't know what to do with their music,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so they really enjoy working with someone that can help them. I can't tell you how many times, oh my God, I've come in and I'm like, where'd you get this beat? They're like, oh, off YouTube. And it's like, all
Yep.
right, cool. And then
Yep.
we get done recording it and they're like, so what should I do with it? I'm like, throw that shit in the trash. Because you don't even want to go through, you don't even want to start your career that way. It's gonna be bad,
Ugh.
like you need to build a team. You need to find someone that's build you a beat. You need to do all that. You need to get contracts.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know this stuff.
No.
And the scary thing to me is that you see it a lot on YouTube as you say, Kanye West style beat free. Like, bro, they can just delete free. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
like, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even know where they got that beat from.
Nope.
They could have taken it from their buddy, and then all of a sudden you got a lawsuit with 3 people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like just get rid of it now
As
before we even start.
your lovely wife has been a guest on our show speaking on that very issue about, you know, getting beats from a third party and then the potential liability. So I love the fact that as an engineer, you're actually bringing that up to them because to your point, and I'm going to have my students watch this episode.
Yep.
To your point, there's a lot of engineers, new engineers out there that are not taking the business side of it serious, and
No,
that customer service and that knowledge.
customer service is what it's all about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Repeat business. That's
Yep.
what you want.
Yep.
There's only so many people that you can record. You
Yep.
want repeat, repeat, repeat. But that's the other one that cracks me up is leasing a beat.
Oh yeah, that's
Don't
Davey's
get me
least favorite
started.
word.
What the
Yeah.
hell does that mean?
Yeah, right.
Like you have to
That is
return
the
it?
new term for licensing in this new generation, but trust me.
I'm like, do you return the beat in 3 years? Like, what do you do?
I love that you bring up the YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube thing's dangerous.
I'll tell you what, it's very popular. A lot of artists are getting compositions off of the internet. Now, it's one thing to collaborate with somebody, which is what we prefer you do, versus buying a beat and something you've downloaded off of YouTube, which brings me back to the quality issue, Chris. When somebody comes in with a beat to you from YouTube, what is the quality of that even like?
Does it matter?
To them, because they've already spent the money on it, you
Girl,
know?
like you listen to Dre beat, like a Dre beat, like that shit's so good. You know what I mean? It's so the 808s are so pure sounding, and then you listen to like Splurge,
Mhm.
right? And it's just like, what is that? Brrr, right? It's just like you just ran that beat through a carburetor. Like, what's
Oh my
going on?
god, I love
Um,
it.
no, I mean, I'm pretty open minded with people's beats, and I don't care the quality of it. I don't care about any of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's your art.
Mhm.
I used to have a boss that always said, push fader cash check,
Mm.
and I hate that saying.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Um, I also hear a lot of new people, like a lot of students and such, that be like, "Man, this artist sucks. Like, I don't like this song. Like, this song sucks to mix and all this stuff." It's like the secret with being a professional engineer is to remember that it's not about you,
Mhm.
right? It has nothing to do with you. What it has to do with is them. it has to do with their mom, specifically their mom, right? They could be the worst artist in the whole world, like literally trash, just being, but their mom is going to love it. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's all that matters. As long as mom's happy and, as long as that artist is happy, who cares if one person listens to that song? That's their dream. That's their art. You're there to capture it. You're the librarian. That's it. And that's how I think engineers really need to take their craft instead of this egotistical bullshit, that people, well, I don't want to do this because I don't like the sound of it and all that stuff. It ain't about me, And if I had that attitude, I wouldn't have that gold record right there.
Right.
Because the funny thing is I never wanted to be a hip hop engineer. Ever. Not that I didn't like hip hop. I absolutely love hip hop.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was my genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to record.
Obviously, you're good at it.
I know. I know.
Obviously, you're good at it. All right, I got 2 questions and then we can wrap it up. Really quick, if I'm an artist going out and looking for my engineer, can you tell me your top 3 things or top 2 that are red flags for me to not use this particular engineer? Is there anything that's like I hate to use industry standard or whatever, but is there anything that is like oh, hell no, absolutely not when it comes to, me looking for an engineer?
Oh man, I gotta be really safe on this one. I feel like people will listen to this and be like, I feel like he's talking about me now.
Well, maybe they need to hear it though, you know?
Yeah,
my signature is being on time.
What'd you say?
Being on time.
Being on time.
If you hire an engineer and he's 5 minutes late, fire him right away. I am all about timeliness. Don't be late to any session that they do. One that doesn't listen. Like when you speak to them, if they're just busy doing stuff, they should be listening to what you're saying. Because you are the client, you are the boss at that moment. One that is kind of short with you, I guess you could say. Like if you said, can you tell me about your mixing styles or something like that? And they email back like, look, man, I produce good stuff.
Go read my bio.
Go read my bio. It's on the internet.
Yeah.
Just rude people. I feel like, I think what brings out a good performance is the vibe of the studio, the atmosphere of the studio, and being able to connect with that engineer. Especially being an in-house engineer. Like if you go to, so-and-so studio down the road, you're not going to know the engineer. You're not really friends with them. So when you walk in there, you're having to connect with that person. And if they can't connect with you, it's kind of can bring you down. Now, if you meet someone out at a bar or something like that, and they say they're an engineer, I don't know. I think I'm a pretty good judge of character personally. When I meet someone, I know right away whether or not I'm going to like them or not like them. Just by the way they conduct themselves.
Yeah, I always tell people, feel the vibe. I'm a vibe person. If the vibe ain't right, trust your gut. That instinct is there for a reason, for sure.
Be careful of people undercutting themselves too.
Yeah, but how do you know? Like if you're just starting, how do you know somebody's undercutting? Like what kind of research should I have done prior to... if this is my first time recording and now I'm trying to put this out there, how do I know that's a good rate? Because everybody's experience is going to be different. So, and that brings me back. That brings me back to my music. Yeah. Okay. Because that brings me back to the budget question. Like I'm budgeting my project. I got a budget for the mixing, the mastering. So
everybody has their music on YouTube.
Right.
At least, you know what I mean? So they should always be able to send you a link to YouTube. The one thing also that I would like to say to artists when they're talking to engineers, and I get this every week, is like, hey, I'd like for you to mix my album or my song or whatever. Do you have any links to some stuff that you've worked on?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll send them YouTube links or whatever I have, or Spotify links or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they always come back with, "Can I hear what it sounded like before you mixed it?"
Mm-hmm.
That's an absolute no.
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, "Well, why not?" And be like, "Well, would you want me to send your unmixed stuff to people?" So don't ask engineers that. And to me, honestly, if an engineer did that, I would stay away from that engineer, because I wouldn't want my unmixed stuff going out.
But don't do it
overnight.
unless the client is okay with it. Because I have been told, and only one or two other engineers mentioned this during like a career session. They were saying to new engineers, if you can provide a rough, the first like maybe 10 or 15 seconds of a what it was like before you did it to showcase your talent.
I totally disagree
You're
with
against that?
Yeah. Even if
Okay.
the artist said it was okay, I'd say no.
Oh,
I'd be
okay.
like, just don't
Just
let
out of respect.
Yeah, because imagine like if like Outkast or someone like that,
Yeah.
if someone leaked an unmixed Outkast song and it sounded like shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It became a
Yeah.
joke on YouTube
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Or you ever see those like really bad oh god, never mind. I'm not gonna think of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because we've already seen certain things about like J-Lo and Britney Spears, and there's always a running joke about like, thank God for the engineer.
Yeah. Who am I thinking of right now? The biggest artist in the world right now.
Trying to think who. I don't know. I mean,
Heck,
Beyonce can sing for the most part.
I don't know, but
But
I don't think it's smart to put out unprofessional work,
yeah,
especially if you're a career. You know what I mean?
sure.
But
I mean,
that's
I definitely get I get both sides of that, to be perfectly honest. Like I 100% understand what you're saying, especially because the client may be like, I don't want people to know I'm that bad. I might be an amazing performer, need a little help in the studio because I'm going to use what you recorded while I lip sync on stage anyway.
Post Malone. That's who I'm thinking of. Post
Who?
Malone. Post Malone. Have you seen
Oh,
his
Post
like?
Malone.
Oh God, have you seen his like pre-famous?
No.
Yeah, check it out.
No, don't say that about Posty.
I love Posty.
I love Post
Don't
Malone
you
too.
do it.
But
Don't
if he
you
looked
do
like
it.
a kid, woo boy,
Oh no.
no.
I would be
All
paying
right.
people to take that stuff down.
That hurts my heart because I mean, not like I'm a huge fan of his, but I've heard him play guitar and I thought he was
He can
doing all
play.
right.
Oh God, yeah, he can play and he can sing now. But you when you hear it
Yeah.
music lessons and all that
Yeah.
stuff, vocal lessons, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point too, is there's a lot of new artists that are not working with somebody who's helping them develop themselves. And so unfortunately, they're hearing it from the engineer and their feelings get hurt because this whole time they thought they could sing, but they're not working with somebody who's helping them develop their talent. And so, yeah, I get that. I never really processed that thought until right now.
Sometimes it sounds like the engineer sometimes has to Simon Cowell some of these
Yeah,
artists.
seriously. All right, last question,
Yeah.
Chris, in closing. First of all, thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you just got out of the studio, so I can't wait to see what kind of magic comes your way next. Last question for you is, of all of the experiences you've had working in the music industry and these awards that you're receiving, what is your most proud moment, or what is your most proud accolade to date?
I don't know. I think my most proud moment ever was the first time I saw my name on a record as an engineer or as a producer. I think that was the proudest I've ever been. But
That's
I
cool.
think the proudest, honestly, is lately when I just did that movie with Anthony Hopkins and seeing my name in the AMC theater.
That's
Oh,
all.
wow.
Yeah, I saw the picture you posted on
I didn't even
Facebook.
think I was going to get a credit.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about it in this episode because we're going to bring you back, because there are a couple industry things about making sure that engineers are receiving their credit that I do want to talk about, but we'll save that for another episode because I want to see if we can get a couple engineers in on that one. But nonetheless, thank you, Chris, for hustling home from work and, and jumping in on this. Again, congratulations on your award, my friend. Thank you. And we will definitely have you back on again for sure.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Vana Room. We will see you next week.